This broadcast of Worlds 2011 is brought to you in association with the curly-haired gene. I'm Rich Hagan, and this is Mr. Alan Comer, Hall of Famer from the class of 2005. And Alan is a noted deck designer down the years, Miracle Grow amongst many other historic decks. And when he comes to the Pro Tour, likes to have a bit of fun. And we've got a fun deck to show the listeners and the viewers this time around. So Alan, let's start off with the core of the deck in row one. Talk us through Grand Architect and Heartless Summoning? What's that about?
Heartless Summoning is actually the real core and where you really want to get. The Grand Architect's pretty good. Heartless Summoning can just go nuts. It does some things that are very, very unfair. Taking off 2 mana on a creature, if you've got the right creatures, that's just insanely good. The Grand Architects, they give you 2 mana, but you only get to do one thing a turn, whereas Heartless Summoning, you get to use that every time you find a creature.
Okay, now, of course there's a drawback. Creatures you control, that's you yourself, I'm afraid, get -1/-1, but I guess the payoff doesn't matter. Let's move across to the left here, and we see these guys, the Myr Superion. Now, 5/6 for 2 is incredible value, but they don't generally let you cast it. You only get the mana produced by creatures to cast Myr Superion. Oh, but wait. How do where does it work? How does it work?
Fortunately, when its cost returns to 0, it doesn't say that you have to spend mana from a creature, just that you can only spend mana from a creature. So it's free.
Whoa, that's neat.
The very first game of the tournament, turn 2, I put down 3 Myr Superions. The next turn, I had 2 more.
So that's 15 power of guys, except it's 12 power of guys because of the -1/-1. So because it's at 0, you get to spend 0, even though you can only spend by creatures.
And all 0 of that came from creatures.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. So that's your starting point. You have your 5/6s essentially for free, 4/5s. Heartless Summoning and Grand Architect. Now a lot of that is going to fuel the deck further down. Our next row, our set of 8, Phyrexian Metamorph using Phyrexian mana, and Phantasmal Image out of M12. Both of these, they're pretty straightforward. They're copy effects, right?
Yes.
So I guess the trick is knowing what to copy, and we'll come to that in a moment, because our next row is Search. Ponder, we've seen all over Modern, for example, and now here's Treasure Mage, a sort of alternate version of Trinket Mage, again, designed to get you the cards you need. And now, Mr. Alan Comer is about to explain the bottom row in all its fabulous glory, which begins over here with Wurmcoil Engine. Take it away.
Wurmcoil Engine is just a staple in many decks. 6/6, 5/5, who cares? It's lifelink, it's death touch, red hates it, it can come out turn 3 on some good draws, usually it's turn 4, and it's just a nightmare. And then control hates it too, because it's 2/2/2s after the Heartless Summoning and their Wrath of God, or their Day of Judgment.
Yep.
It's just very, very solid. That's why there's actually 3 copies of it.
Okay, so that's one engine. Let's move to the next engine, which is Contagion Engine.
So Contagion Engine is really in there as I can tutor for this, and you're particularly vulnerable for it right now. So I'm going to go in and wreck your board with it because I can go get it when I need it. It's really about Mr. Green-White, who's going to make a bunch of tokens and make them really big. I'm going to make him small and fast.
Excellent. Next along, big fat guy, Steel Hellkite, 5/5 flyer. You can make it get much bigger, but I guess it's the next ability that's pretty important?
Usually, although people do underestimate that first one, you can generate a lot of mana.
Oh, indeed. So you can kill them very swiftly with this.
Yes.
Talk us about the ability then.
So the second ability is very key. Like the Contagion Engine, you often want to kill a bunch of your opponent's stuff. And if you can get through, the Steel Hellkite is far superior. Often you can't, which is why the engine's there. You can get rid of anything as long as you can pay for it.
And you can pretty much always pay for it.
Yes, with the Grand Architect build, you can always pay for it. It gets a little harder if you do Heartless Summoning.
Okay, let's move across. Prototype Portal. This has got the imprint keyword. Talk us through what this does for you.
So there's one of those in there, so that if you draw something that's just going to kill them, you can do it time and time again. Like, there's so many cards that you've got one of and you can tutor for it, and then suddenly it's very, very bad for them. And that's what the prototype falls for. It's to give you a way to win an end game with one card that's just going to dominate them.
So I guess, for example, when they're down to no cards, if you were able to, for example, pull out a Flashfreeze out of the sideboard, does that work? Something like that?
No. You have to go find something in your deck.
Ah, right, okay. No, but I mean after boarding. For game 2 or 3.
It's only going to do artifacts. So.
Oh, okay, right. So
but that's what you're about anyway. You're about killing them with artifacts.
All right, okay. Let's move across to Mindslaver. Now that's been around forever.
And is my favorite portal target. In fact, I managed to slaver lock somebody in this tournament, round 2. We had a wonderful copy situation where he played a Consecrated Sphinx and I top decked my Metamorph and I had one. We both do almost 20 cards, and he didn't understand that my deck has a bunch of free stuff. And I can use those 20 cards, including making sure he doesn't.
Yeah, okay, so sacrifice Mindslaver, you get their turn. Then we've got Spine of Ish Sah. So this, another artifact, you get to destroy a target permanent. So I guess if you put that under Prototype Portal, that's pretty saucy.
It is, and the Spine's sort of, in some ways it's sad in this deck because it doesn't really want to be here, but there are times when you just have to get rid of something, and having one way to tutor for something and get that thing out of the face so you can finish them off, it's got its place, but often you just don't want to see it.
And finally, another very famous card, Solemn Simulacrum, an invitational winner, Jens Torin from years ago. What's that about in your deck?
It's very strange, because at 4 mana, he's good, but he's not great. But when you start spending 2 mana for getting a 1/1 and a land, and then blocking and getting a card, he goes nuts pretty quick. And often, if you have sort of a deck where you don't, or a draw where you don't quite know what's going on, you wind up copying him multiple times. I mean, what you really want to do with a copy is get a really big thing, but sometimes you're just like, copy Jens. Okay, I've got 6 mana in play. What are you doing?
All right, so that's the deck. Let's look down the bottom just to go through the lands for you. Very simple, this. 4 Drowned Catacomb, 4 Darkslick Shores, 8 islands in total, and then we come along to 4 swamps. So that's your mana base. And then finally, we'll just take a very quick look at the sideboard. Some counter spells, 3 Negate. You've got 4 more counter spells. You like to say no to people, clearly. 4 Flashfreeze, Ratchet Bomb to blow things up. What's Master Thief about?
Well, it only costs 2 and it steals their Wurmcoil Engine. So if you run into somebody who's got something big, one of the things about a deck like this is it's very tight and there's not very many things you can take out. So what you want in your sideboard are very specific cards that just dominate something and are obvious inclusions. And they can be narrow because you don't want to sideboard very often.
Okay, then we've got a couple more Contagion Engines for when one isn't enough, and a spare Steel Hellkite to round it off. So that's the deck. Now, I'm not going to lie, Alan's been doing this kind of thing for the best part of heading towards 20 years. He's quite good at it. So if you're going to take this to your next big event, you might want to test it quite a lot first, okay? But if you want to have some fun and you like playing blue cards and you like doing crazy stuff like a ton of 5/6s that apparently no one ever plays with for no mana, Alan's your man. Alan Comer, the Hall of Famer, here on Day 1 of Worlds. I'm your host, Rich Hagan, saying bye.
Bye.